How you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Today you're in for a treat. You remember every other comic I've ever done in my channel? Forget about them. They're garbage. This is the comic. This is it. This is the greatest comic ever. Okay, I've been looking for this. My G's have been misplaced. I'm still looking for my Spider-Mans, and where I thought the Spider-Mans would be, I found Ghost Rider. Oh man. But my heart leaped when I saw this. I I talked about a comic book store called Howie's. Well, it was the comic book store. It was a stationery store, and it was I would have to walk a little different way to get to school, so I'd go there after school. And Howie's was this strange little place. You'd walk in there, and it was just filled with everything: gum, pencils, oak tag, cards, greeting cards and magazines and candy and sometimes toys and stuff like that. It was just this insane place that really you don't find anymore. Lottery tickets and stuff like that, cigarettes, and if you walk in, you went to the right. There was this little like rounded alcove, and it was just filled and filled and filled with comics. And back then, when you got to February of whatever year it was, you would rip the covers off the comics, and then you'd send them back, give them back to your distributor, and they would credit you. So back then, comics were returnable. So if you ever got comics without covers back then, you knew you were sometimes Howie would just give away the comics without the covers because they were, it was either that or throw them away. But he never did that. Well, Howie, I never saw Howie returning comics. I'm sure he did, but he always had old comics. Always. So you'd always find stuff. And I remember just going through piles and piles of comics, and I found this one. This isn't the particular... This we bought, because the one I got from Howie's, I read and read and read and lent it to people. Oh my God, that comic is beat up. So this is a newer, copy that I bought for my collection. And I probably never read this particular comic, but I read the one that I bought from Howie over and over and over again. And look at this cover, The Demon Within, and here's Ghost Rider in this pathos, this agonizing pose. Oh, covered in fire, and there's his motorcycle. At this point in Ghost Rider's history, he could shoot fire, and it would form into a motorcycle, and he would ride around. But just look at that cover. I don't know how many times I would put like a piece of tracing paper and trace this over and over and over again. That was just the coolest Don Perlin art. That was this. Come on, man. That is just the coolest. Here we have in the corner, Ghost Rider just being spooky, coming at you. This is just so good. Still only 35 cents. Or 1978. Okay. You know what still only 35 cents means? It means next month it's going to 45 cents or 40 cents. Oh, but this was so good, so good, so good. Okay, so first we'll check out the it's barely been opened, so the seam wants to keep it closed. The Amazing Energized Spider-Man, and I call this the in-action figure because it didn't move. It was just molded in that shape. Because when you're in a helicopter, you want to keep your hands as close to the blades as possible. And it shined a flashlight, and it had a motorized web, and you drop this heavy thing on whatever it is, you would grab it, and then it would drag it along. Okay, pretty cool way to simulate the webs. So just keep a note that I've said in a few videos that for some reason Ghost Rider was hard to find. It was Ghost Rider, Doctor Strange, Power Man and Iron Fist, Defenders, and I also must add Shang-Chi. Those were the comics that were hard to find for me as a kid. But at Howie's, they would have stacks of comics, so that's where I would find a lot of these bizarre old comics that were hard to find. Sometimes, but it was always hit or miss. So I never got the issue before this. So this story is already starting. So, this is part two to a two-part story, and here we have. Well, first let's check out the story box. The Saga of Johnny Blaze. Once, not too long ago, he was the pawn of Satan. He's since been freed, but for reasons he cannot yet comprehend, he still possesses the Satan-spawned strength and searing touch of hellfire. Whether these supernatural powers are a blessing or a curse, he does not know. Yet, the Ghost Rider. Okay, the Ghost Rider. This is the second version of the Ghost Rider. The first version was like a cowboy who rode a horse. He wore all white, and they changed him to the Phantom Rider. I don't know why. He could have been the original. Leave him as the Ghost Rider. But this is Johnny Blaze. This is the 70s. I talked about Evil Knievel was a big cultural phenomenon with that wind-up Evil Knievel motorcycle toy. Well, Johnny Blaze is like loser Evil Knievel. So he's the stunt bike rider who never got the fame that Evil Knievel got, and then sold his soul to the devil. I talked about the origin of Ghost Rider in one of my very first videos. So here he is, and he's imprisoned by this horrible kid, this cold, inhuman voice of a child. Vengeance, pain racked, whatever. So this child, he was born in like the 1700s, and he was a mutant. But back then they didn't know what mutants were, so of course he was accused of being a witch, and he lashed out with his mutant abilities, which was, never vaguely determined, but like telekinetics and stuff like that. And later on, he was developed like the ability to control matter. So he's like a couple of centuries old. But one of the things he did, he could control his metabolism. So he never really grew up. So he's still a child, and that's his father there. His father is imprisoned by him. The father still has a will, but he overrides his muscles, stuff like that. So his father is like trapped in his own body, and his name is Nathan. I forget his last name, but Nathan's father is imprisoned by his father. And this is like some poor schlub that discovered all this. And then Johnny Blaze, Ghost Rider, he's the hero for the day, the boy who lived forever. And this is how I was introduced. This is, I'm pretty sure that this is the very first Ghost Rider comic I've ever got. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I'd say I'm about 75% sure that this is the very first Ghost Rider. And it's just, it gave me nightmares, and I'm not even joking. This comic literally gave me nightmares. So here's the father. He's like, wants to do the right thing, but he can't. He can't even move if not for the will of his son. So look at him. You can see the motion lines. Oh no, he's trying to resist. You have nothing, Father, except that what I choose to give you. You hate me for that, don't you? You hate my power. You hate that most of all. So remember that Woody Woodpecker, that Twilight. That Twilight Zone episode that with Bill Mummy when he wishes people to the cornfields. So it's like that. This child just grew up. Every whim that he wanted, he could solve. So he's just this spoiled brat kid in control of his parents. Then your hatred of me has never been much of a secret, has it? Look at me, Father. Die. If you can't, no, son, please, you can't. Just look at that horrible kid. And if this globe he lives in, he's like the boy in the plastic bubble. He has to protect himself from the environment. So he fashioned this globe to keep himself from germs. I forget if he is a germphobe or he is extremely. I think his mental abilities are so great, but his physical abilities are weakened. You wish me dead, don't you? Very well, then draw your gun, kill me if you can. And the father's like, no, my God, no. Father. So look at the kids. Don't make me do this, son. Please, I'm sorry. Chuffed. The gun misfired, but how? He goes, of course it did, Father, because I had willed it so. I had to teach you a lesson that I have never intended to harm you, but if anything ever happened to you, it would break Mother's heart. John? Dearest Jonathan, after all, haven't I always cared for both of you, and I always will. We'll be together forever. Just you and me. Hold me, darling. Love me. Look at this horrible, that just stuff of nightmare. No, son, not again. I'll do anything you want. Just send her away. So his mother died, and now he's using his will to animate her corpse to come in and mock his father. This kid is just awful. And like I said, I didn't have the issue before this, so this is my introduction to this. Oh, just horrible. And I'm not joking when I said that this comic gave me nightmares as a kid. Wonderful advertisement for the Micronauts. Just beautiful Michael Golden art. So good. Get a Crossman BB gun. Look at that. Get some guns and comics. 1978 was a different world. Motorcycles, guns. And Johnny Blaze is just horrified. No, by all that's holy. Not this. This is a mockery of death. Worse, it's a mockery of hell itself. And here he is. I will not allow it. And notice that his word balloons are very, the edges, you know, that they're not round balloons. They've got corners, and it's thick, indicating that his voice is not a normal voice. I always pictured it to be like almost like echoey and you know, deep and echoey. Incredible. The demon has broken free of our mental shackles. I don't think anyone could do that. A demon? What does he mean? So look at this. And he just... Ghost Rider is just horrified by all of this. So he just shoots... That's one of his powers. He shoots hellfire. Now, when Ghost Rider first arose, he just shot fire blasts. But like I always say, power creep happens. Superheroes get more powerful over time. They level up if you for the way you youngins say things, but he leveled up and his flame power became hellfire. But right now, simple fire is good enough. So, I burned once, demon. I do not fear your flames. This is just, oh man, this is just so freaking scary. Look at that horrible face. Don Perlin rather. Yep, Don Perlin. You. Oh, I didn't do the credits. He just hit it out of the park with the horror in this. I got to pick up some horror comic. So Roger McKenzie and Don Perlin, scripter, co-plotters, artist. So that means he wrote it, and together they came up with the concept, and then he did the art. Jim Novak, letterer. I'm not too familiar with Jim Novak. Bob Sharon, colors. I'm not too familiar. Roger Stern, editor. Roger Stern was also a very solid, very, very prolific writer, and Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. As you've probably heard, I broke a record. Jim Shooter was, when he was in charge of Marvel, Marvel's on top of its game. Just so good, just so good. And now, you are a fool, monster. You may be a thing from the grave, but I am a thing from hell. And he just picks up this burning corpse. Look at that. I would love to see this as a movie. Could you imagine the Nicolas Cage movie with this? Oh, man. And I will not be denied. No, put her down. What sort of man is Johnny Blaze? Or is he a man at all? Poor father. And then Cathrack. And I just would like to point out that Jim Shooter, as the Marvel in chief, he made all of the writers and letterers study physics and acoustics so that these are authentic sound effects. If you were to throw, and I know he did this because he wrote it in one of his editorials, that he had Roger McKenzie throw burning corpses into glass windows to find out what sound is actually made. So Cathrack is the accurate sound when throwing a burning corpse into a plexiglass window. Mother, you can't hurt me, demon, but you hurt Mother, and for that you will pay. Just this creepy little spoiled brat witch kid. And behold, the Marvel Galaxy of Superstars. The Man Called Nova, Captain Marvel, The Incredible Hulk, The Hands of Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu, and Daredevil, The Man Without Fear. And the Fun Factory ads. Note that the Fun Factory used to take out full-page ads, and now they're reduced to that. And then Milky Way. So this demon kid just makes a vortex, and he's been living underground for like 300 years, and like I said, his mental abilities are great. So he's actually like super genius, and through his telekinesis, stuff like that, he's been building technological machines and stuff like that. So there's a lot of this like machines spewing Kirby crackle, and I love this. And then Ghost Rider's hands are on fire. I have you, child. Do you hear? I have you now. And my vengeance is a terrible thing to behold. The force bubble, the demon is crushing it with his bare hands. But without it, I'll die. So this is like a manifestation of his power. Oh, I'm caught on my chair by the speaker wire. So I guess this is like made solid by his will, and Ghost Rider's just crushing it. And this picture, oh my God, look at that panel. Would you hang that? Would you would you get a 3x3, frame that and hang that in your living room? Oh man, look at that. I'm gonna just look at that. Stop it, demon! You must obey me. I obey no one, child. Rage is my only master. Look at, it's just so cool. It's no use, I can't control him, but he pulls this machinery into him. That doesn't mean I'm helpless. The bone-shattering impact would have crushed a dozen mortal men. So, look at that. Look at Ghost Rider's face. More goodies from the Fun Factory. More toys. Kiss Comic, Jaws 2. Just various ads. Stuff like this you don't see anymore. Muscles in 7 Days. Charles Atlas. And here is his. It's some sort of mound out there, and look, he's got this like floating high tech. I think the story would have been better if they kept everything like more like, colonial or Revolutionary War times kind of stuff. You know what I mean, from his era. But instead, it's all high tech. So that knocked Ghost Rider out. When Ghost Rider gets knocked out, he reverts back to Johnny Blaze. So here he is in the prison talking with the father, and now the father is telling Johnny Blaze the origin. The kid was born on a storm. It was a dark and stormy night. Kind of thing. And the kid was born by the saints. The child's eyes glow like fire and brimstone. So look at that. That's just creepy. That is just creepy. And at the stroke of midnight, he was born. My poor Katerina, Anna's midwife. I don't think she ever understood it. I doubt any of us did. And I remember she pushed past me and ran screaming from the house. So maybe it was the supernatural. Maybe he was more than just a mutant. I don't know. But they leave it ambiguous. And then pitchforks and torches. This villagers came screaming. And they beat him up. Here's the mother. What are you doing? We want you, witch, and we want the Satan child. So they just beat her up. Oh, my poor beloved Anna, what did they do to her? What did they do to her? The witch is dead. Now for the little monster. Tell me that isn't nightmare fuel. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my God. This panel gave me nightmares. And then instinctively he felt the fear and hatred in him, and he used it and twisted it back at them. That is just the freakiest thing. Holy moly. Okay? And he transforms the little kid's just born, and he transforms them into unspeakable horrors. Look at that. Oh man. So cool. Oh, that little tiny head on. Oh, I haven't looked at this in years. Years later, he laughed at the cruel jest he played that dark and rain-swept night. And then the flames from the fallen torches hungrily burned their home and into a blinding, sweltering inferno. The child called to his mother, and she came to him. Tenderly, as only a mother can, she cradled our precious son in her awkward, lifeless arms and carried him to safety. Anna? And look, so here he is. They got the covered wagon and they're going someplace. Just the three of them. Look, she's decaying, but of course, because the kid's power, she's decaying slowly, and the kid's keeping the father alive. And although his mind grew stronger beyond belief, his body grew steadily weaker and more frail. Eventually, he was forced to confining himself in contrivance of his own designs, simply to live. Much later, he altered his first crude efforts, but still he was trapped in a prison which he could never escape. So that's his weakness. His body is frail and susceptible, whereas his mind is vastly powerful. Okay, so I guess they are hinting that he's a mutant. Sorry, I just had to. At this time we came to this place, Nathan designed it, called it his world, and he populated it with cybernetic cars that you and the old man Woody fought earlier. So there. Yes, and this is his world. He rules it. An unforgiving, iron-willed dictator, jealously keeping existence a secret even from those who might have helped him. Okay, so they're establishing that he's a mutant, but he's using his mental power. Because he's hundreds of years old at this point, and so he's probably stronger than Xavier, or at least able to hide himself from Xavier. The Shogun Warriors and the Micronauts. These were intellectual properties not created by Marvel, obviously, but Marvel they were. I think Hasbro or Mattel, I forget who owned them, they asked Marvel to make a Shogun Warriors comic, and then Mego asked them to make, and the Shogun Warriors comic was all right. It was mediocre, but the Micronauts was really good, really good comic. The letters page. Beppe Santini wrote a lot of letters. He was a letter hack. The Micronauts are coming by Mantelo and Golden. Look at that. Bug is riding a bat. So cool. Pizzazz. Marvel's really pushing this. Subscribe to Spider-Man. Get some grit. So here they are. They're bonding in the jail cell. And he's like, you got to turn into that demon, that Ghost Rider, and free us. He's like, Mister, that'll help. He goes, but we need help. Nathan needs it more, and you will help, even if I have to beat it out of you. Come on, demon, claim your vengeance. So he's, come on and fight me. Yes, mortal. I will fight. And he just burns. He goes, and when I'm done with you, he goes, no, not you. I want the child. I awakened the demon, but I only hope someday he can find it in his hell-singed soul to forgive me. I mean, you mean nothing to me, mortal. I free you simply to get you out of my way. So he's making excuses for being a good guy. And he burns his way through the door. And here he is. Just shoots the fire and makes a motorcycle. So the motorcycle is literally made out of solid fire. The demon and the demon machine suddenly glaze down the gleaming corridors. It's like, farewell, Johnny Blaze, and may God have mercy. And for a while, they were saying that whenever he turned into Ghost Rider, he literally burnt. And it hurt. You know, so like a werewolf. When a werewolf turned from human to a werewolf, it was supposed to be the pain drove him insane, and that's why they went insane with rage, because of the pain of the transformation. Ghost Rider, he was just freaking angry because of he would burn to, literally burning to death, because Ghost Rider is supposed to be undead, and then when he turns back, he like resurrects back into the flesh. So it's just his whole existence is pain. That I'm sure people got that tattooed on them. I mean, come on, look at that. By the Dark Lord, it cannot be. That is just so freaking cool. Just so many panels are just so worthy of a tattoo or a print. Action drama thrills on sale now. Doug Monick and Mike Zeck bring you the master. This comic, Master of Kung Fu Shenki. Well, the movie's coming out soon by Marvel, and as you can see, it's a obvious Bruce Lee ripped off. But this comic brought out some of the best artists. Mike Zeck, now I can't remember Paul Galassi, just such good artists. Some more art. And look. So he comes in here and there's this horrific tree. So that Woody, the farmer guy, he came in and turned him into a tree. He got zapped by the machinery. But my luck turned sour, Johnny boy. He found me and he changed me. And God help me, I hunger. So he's just grabbing Ghost Rider. He's going to eat him. By Hades, I bear you no malice, human, but my patience is a fleeting thing. I warn you at once, and only once. Unhand me. And he burns him off. And here comes the kid. Fire's being shot at him, and he's just pushing the fire away. And the mental Woody, the mental tree, is firing blasts at him. Ghost Rider doesn't want to hurt him because he's just another victim. So what does he do? I misremembered. So he's trying to help out because he was an oil prospector. That's right. He wasn't a farmer. You see, he's prospecting. So he knows now that he's the tree, his roots go into the ground, and he knows that there's oil under the ground. So he blasts the ground, and oil comes out. And Ghost Rider uses his flame power to ignite the oil. What? You can't. And Iron Man's using Twinkies. Iron Man, you smart Twinkies. And he ignites the geyser, and boom, the whole place boomed. And here comes Ghost Rider just rolling out. Turns around, got to look at your destruction, and then ride away like a cool guy. And then there's the father. Perhaps he thinks of Death. Death long denied the child's father. Death who was finally rushed to claim and ultimately free its own. Death who brings peace to all save the Ghost Rider. So Nathan's poor father now, without his mental abilities to sustain him. He just succumbs to death. And I was hooked. I read this comic, I was hooked. So I was looking for Ghost Rider. And Ghost Rider faces the Ultimate Foe and Death Race. Jim Starlin. Oh, I didn't know it was Jim Starlin. Steve Leilola at Supernatural Special. The next issue is probably rivals this. And it's just a phenomenal comic. I got to get the next issue and showcase that. Not right away. I don't want to do 2 Ghost Riders in a row. But Ghost Rider 35, phenomenal. And that, well, I'll talk about that. But it's called an inventory story, meaning that they were late and they had to. It was already written, drawn, and put aside, just in case deadlines became a little too much, and they would pull out an inventory story and just jam it in here. So, usually it's to give the artist a break, or something happened. In one case, somebody had a fire in their house, and they pulled out an inventory. Sometimes they could be jarring because they're a tryout artist or whatever. So next issue is a whole new team just for one issue, so that this team could get ahead of schedule and back on the tracks. But I'm talking too much about the next issue. So this is Ghost Rider 34. This is Ghost Rider's first series, Johnny Blaze. Remember, Ghost Rider started out in Marvel Spotlight 5, I think it was, yes. And then it went for a couple issues, and then they gave him Ghost Rider. So Ghost Rider 1 is not the first appearance of Ghost Rider. The expensive, collectible issue is Marvel Spotlight 5. I really hope the Marvel Universe re-explores Ghost Rider and brings him back. I think it would be if done as a proper Marvel movie, treated with respect as the comics, it was good. The problem with Ghost Rider is he never really had a defining arc. He had a good story here and there, but he never had that defining story that so many comics characters need to really like chisel away all the imperfections and make them into the character that becomes iconic. So there you go. This is Ghost Rider number 34. It's such a good comic. I beat it to death. I think that the cover is actually off. I read it so much that the staples fell apart. Staples got ripped out. So this is my collectible issue that I bought just to have in my collection. This is probably the first time I opened this particular issue, but just so good. And I'm not joking when I say that this comic gave me nightmares. Really did. That red-faced baby. Oh my God. Matter of fact, let's end the video. That is just horrible right there. But let's end the video on one of the most horrific comic book images of all time. And tell me that isn't terrifying. So, thank you for your time. Hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Just so good. Just so good. And tonight when you go to sleep, that's under your bed.